Seaplanes open a whole new world to aviation. But like any form of aviation, there are risks and responsibilities we must learn to manage, mistakes to be avoided, and accidents to be prevented. An issue that should command the attention of every amphibian seaplane pilot is the gear-down water landing. When a seaplane lands in the water with the gear extended, it's almost always disastrous and often fatal. This risk is easily mitigated and disaster avoided with one simple discipline: gear down for runway landing, gear up for water landing. So why do too many experienced pilots get it wrong? Last year, the Seaplane Pilots Association completed an analysis of 10 years of data on gear down landings with a goal of determining the root causes and proposing solutions. What we found is one simple fact. In 83% of the accidents, if pilots had raised their gear upon takeoff, then they wouldn't have landed with the gear down. In this video, we will show you what we consider the best practices to make sure you get the gear up upon takeoff. Then double check to make sure the gear is up and follow that with a landing checklist to triple check. What's the message here? Positive rate of climb, gear up. Get your gear up every time you take off. It needs to be the first thing you do. Before you touch anything else, raise the gear. Hello, my name is Steve McCoy, and I am the Executive Director of the Seaplane Pilots Association. I'm a longtime seaplane pilot and owner of this amazing Piper Super Cub on Amphibious whipline floats. As the Director of the Seaplane Pilots Association, I have an acute awareness of the dangers of gear-down water landings. I hope that all pilots that operate amphibious hull and float aircraft will have the same awareness. Historically, gear-down water landing accidents have a 1 in 4 fatality rate. These are poor odds for any accident, but particularly for one where the application of a standard procedure could prevent it. When an aircraft lands gear down in the water, it is violent, disorienting, and totally preventable. SPA spends a lot of time keeping existing waterways open to seaplanes and opening new ones. We'll keep doing that, but right now we're redoubling our efforts to promote safety. If we did nothing other than save just one life with safety initiatives and education, we would be tremendously successful. Our goal, though, is to save every life. Anytime the prop turns on an aircraft, there is a risk. We mitigate those risks with training, compliance, piloting skills, best practices, and good common sense. There are plenty of good safety programs out there for wheel aircraft, but we're dedicated to addressing the unique safety issues associated with seaplanes. The Seaplane Pilots Association, through the Seaplane Foundation, has recently committed to this important goal by creating our own unique safety program. Our first initiative is the Focus on Amphib Safety. It makes no difference if you're flying floats or hull. The drill needs to be the same for every amphibious aircraft. The first step is to retract the gear upon establishing positive rate of climb from a hard surface takeoff. That's drilled into our heads for retractable gear land planes, and it becomes even more important for retractable gear seaplanes. A gear up landing on a runway is embarrassing and inconvenient, but gear down on water is almost always disastrous. So how do we fix this? Proper procedure, beginning with raising your gear immediately upon positive rate of climb. Variables are far greater with seaplanes, and because of that, there are a lot more distractions that could interfere with our normal flow, particularly the checklist. We're often at low altitude over trees. We have boats, jet skis, and even paddle boards may possibly be in our path. That is why it is so important to always raise the gear immediately upon departure. And to have a mnemonic checklist that I will always recite, whether I'm operating off of water or land. Every manufacturer is required by the FAA to provide an approved checklist of operation of their aircraft. The procedures we're presenting here are not intended to replace those checklists, but rather enhance them. Mnemonics help pilots remember tasks and work through them, whether they're printed or displayed. With mnemonic checklists, we always have a trigger for initiating the flow. The trigger for this checklist is entering the run-up area at the airport or starting the run-up process on water. After completing the manufacturer's FAA-approved checklist, it's time to use the cigar checklist.
So the C in cigar is controls, free and correct. Instruments, they are correct. Fullest tank, I am on both, and I have verified fuel quantity. And then gear. Our gear is currently down. When we take off, the first thing we're going to do, positive rate, we're going to get the gear up before we touch anything else. I remind myself of the surface I'm departing from, which is land right now, and if it's a hard surface, I need to raise the gear as soon again as I have positive rate of climb. Are set for takeoff. Our area is clear. Run-up has been done. Our radios are set. Our water rudders are up.
As I establish a positive rate of climb, I immediately retract the gear. The process needs to be automatic and 100% consistent. This is especially important if you also fly straight float aircraft. Go through the same drill and the same checklist, whether or not you have retractable gear. I use the same procedure whether I'm staying in the pattern for touch and goes or heading 1,000 miles to Oshkosh. Wheels up at positive rate of climb. Check wheels up after takeoff. Use the same checklist and the same procedure every time. The next step is the post-takeoff or cruise checklist. The emphasis here is to check your gear position immediately after climb out. I use GUMP-C for my post-takeoff checklist. The trigger to initiate the list is the first power reduction after takeoff or a predetermined altitude. G, gas. Confirm your fuel selector for the desired tank. U, undercarriage. Check and make sure your gear is up. M, mixture. Lean if necessary. P, prop. Verify throttle and engine RPM. C, carb. Check your carb heat. For the landing, I use GUMP-C from my mnemonic as well, and my standard procedure is to execute it 3 times. The first time is when I lower the gear, and the second and third are to verify and double check. When it's time to return to the surface, land or water, go through the GUMP-C check and your manufacturer's checklist as appropriate. Normally, I run the checklist on downwind, starting with an out-loud reminder of where I am and what my intentions are. This is a water landing. Wheels are up for water landing. Or, this is a runway landing. Gear is down for runway landing. On my Super Cub, I have a couple of ways to confirm that. First, I touch the gear handle and observe its position. Don't just think it or say it, touch it. I have the Whipline audible gear warning system.
Gear is up for water landing.
Along with status lights for each of the wheels. I also have visual wick indicators for the main wheels. And with most float planes, the nose wheels are visible when they're retracted and out of sight when they're extended. I also have mirrors, and I use them every time. You'll have your own landing checklist for the aircraft you're flying. The trigger for their first GUMP-C landing check is downwind, or if not in a standard pattern, my trigger will be the first application of flaps, or at that point where speed and descent rate are stabilized. Then on base, I recite and confirm GUMP-C again.
So we're currently over water. This is going to be a water landing. Gas, G for gas. We're on both. That's our fullest tank configuration. Undercarriage, we're over and going to land on the waterway underneath us. We've got 4 blue lights. I've got right nose gear up for water, left nose gear up for water, left main up for water, right main up for water. 4 blue lights. I've got gear up in my mirror. I've got main gear up in my mirror. So we are good to go for a water landing. We're going to make sure our mixture is in. Our prop is on high. We have a fixed pitch prop, so that's not a factor for us. And then carb heat is going to be coming on. Again, this is a water landing, and we are configured correctly.
On short final, I recite and confirm my checklist. Most important item being the gear status. I recite Gump C. As I get to U for undercarriage, I touch the gear lever, say once again, either this is a water landing, gear is up for water landing, or this is a runway landing, gear is down for a runway landing. Confirm the lights and confirm the visual cues. Seaplane safety is our top priority at the Seaplane Pilots Association, and it all begins with best practices and consistent procedures. I may forget an occasional birthday, but I never forget. Positive rate, gear up. We have resources on our website to assist you with incorporating these best practices in your operations. Visit the website www.seaplanes.org for links to expanded descriptions, checklist guidance, sample mnemonic checklist, and much more. We've also created a short quiz which we urge you to take. Your participation will not only make you a safer pilot, but it will also earn you Sea Wings credit and give us valuable feedback regarding the safety program and its effects on seaplane safety. We need your participation as we move forward with the Seaplane Foundation Safety Program. So please continue to the quiz via the button at the bottom of this page or in the description under this video.